Independence Hall in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the site of the first and maybe most important political convention in this nation's history. Fast forward to now, 2016, the Democrats are about to make history again in Philadelphia and nominate the first woman for a major party for president. I'm Larry Menti. This is an expanded edition of Jersey Matters at the DNC. We're going to go into the Wells Fargo Center in just 1 minute. But first, we're going to take you across the Delaware River to Camden and the Battleship New Jersey, once a proud member of the Navy, now retired and a tourist attraction. That is where New Jersey Senate President Steve Sweeney had a little get-together for the delegates. And look at the sign out front. Sweeney 2017. Does that mean he's running for governor officially? We asked him. We're with Senate President Steve Sweeney, who is on the deck of the Battleship New Jersey with a welcome party for New Jersey delegates. I saw on the front of the ship it says Sweeney 2017. Is this an announcement party?
No, not at all. I'll be running for something next year. It's either going to be governor or Senate, but not an announcement party, no.
I want to talk to you about the convention here and the one in Cleveland, but you made some news with the gas tax. Yeah. Explain it to everybody. What's going to happen?
Well, we're coming in on Friday in the Budget Committee to amend the bill that the Assembly had passed, that the governor supported, into the bill almost identical to the one we originally agreed to with the Assembly. And then we're going to work to get the Republicans to vote to show enough support for an override, because we think it's critically important that we do that.
It won't be tax neutral, right?
It can't be. It can't be, Larry, but we're stretching as much as we can. You have $870 million in tax cuts in this. And there are things that we really think are important. We call it income retention. The earned income tax credit is going to help the working poor that retain more income, even with the gas tax going up. But the retirees, which is something that I've been after forever, retirement income has been taxed at a low threshold. We want to raise it to $100,000. It's going to have an impact on 206,000 filers in the state of New Jersey. And the estate tax, which I think is probably one of the most controversial ones, is something that we feel we need to do to be competitive with New York. New York raised their threshold on the estate tax to $5.4 million. We're at $675,000. Well, New York doesn't have an inheritance tax. New Jersey has one. Oh, and there's one other one we did, which is a tax deduction of up to $3,000 for veterans. So we're trying to reach as many as we can to reduce taxes as much as we can, but we can't do a tax neutral like the governor said.
And so the sales tax stays at 7%.
Yeah, it can't. We can't bring it down. It would blow too big a hole in the budget. We were talking about $1.6 billion. We were talking more than doubling the tax cuts we were planning, and we're phasing them in over a 4-year period. We're confident we can absorb those costs and not crowd out everything else that we need to pay for in the state. Education, pensions, they're all important. So we just could not put that big a hole in our budget.
It would have made it difficult for the next governor, whoever that may be.
Make it impossible forever the next governor is to govern. We would have actually starved the state, and what you're talking about is massive cuts to education, and what I'm not supportive of. And someone said, well, if the governor, a new governor comes in, they'll just raise the sales tax back up. That's sneaky. We're not into that, and we're not going to do that.
Governor Christie says he will veto the gas tax the way it's coming out of the Senate. Do you have the votes to override the veto?
We do in the Senate. We're working on the votes in the Assembly. We would really like to be able to work something out with the governor. We gave him something he said was ridiculous. What he gave me the other day was just unacceptable. And we worked with the Assembly and came up with almost basically the same plan we had in the beginning, Larry. But we had Republicans in the Assembly that were committed to an override, and there was enough of them. So I think the really important for us is to try to find if we have the ability to override, I think the governor would be more willing to negotiate than he is right now. So I'm hoping we can find a solution rather than have another big fight over this. This is, there hasn't been anything like this in 27 years for a reason. It's not easy. It's a tough vote. And, you know, a lot of people are angry, but you're seeing all these projects shut down, and you know, there's no magic wand where the money's going to come from. So what we're trying to do is help people by doing the tax cuts we're doing to try to balance it, but not the way the governor was trying to do it, because it basically doubled what the cuts were, and we just could not afford that. Whoever the next governor will be would not be able to run the state of New Jersey. We'd be either massively cutting education or pension funding. You'd have to look at big numbers, because you're talking about, we're at $870 million roughly in tax cuts. He won at 1.8. It's just not doable.
The governor's going to try to push a vote early. You need Republicans in the assembly. You can get them quickly?
I don't proclaim to have the greatest knowledge of the assembly since I'm in the Senate, but I know there were votes in the assembly to do an override enough originally. And, you know, the speaker and the governor came up with a plan that they thought was better. We objected because we just couldn't afford what they were trying to do. The Assembly and the Senate are now back in the same position, willing to move forward, and now it's really up to us to find those votes.
At the Republican National Convention, the New Jersey press was talking, and they kept talking about Cory Booker possibly running for governor. If Cory Booker runs for governor, does that change your plans at all?
Listen, I haven't decided what I'm doing yet anyway. If Cory runs, Cory runs. Cory's he's a great leader. He's been a great leader in this state, and I think that a lot of people would have to rethink their positions.
Let's talk about Governor Christie's speech last week at the Republican National Convention. I'm sure you watched it. What's your review?
It was offensive. I mean, it was over the top. You know, guilty, guilty, guilty. You know, playing prosecutor. You know, they need to look in the mirror before they start doing all that stuff. You know, I played to the crowd. What actually, Larry, scared me is listening to everyone, lock her up, lock her up. You know, it's like, what country am I in? That a party they seem like they're going so backwards in time, not forwards. So for me, it's kind of scary to watch the way they handled themselves. And, you know, conventions can be, you know, difficult at times, and you know, there's hard feelings on both sides. Like, just with the Democrats, we're going to have issues because Sanders people are very unhappy with the Clinton people, but at the end of the day, we need to unite to move the country forward, not to move it back.
The Sanders people are even more upset because of this WikiLeaks of the emails that showed the Democratic National Committee was actively working against Bernie Sanders. Does Debbie Wasserman Schultz have to go?
My understanding is she's going to resign after the convention anyway. You know, Larry, and the presidential nominee normally does get to pick, you know, who the national chair, I'm thinking state, who the national chair is. So I think Secretary Clinton is going to make that decision. And I think Debbie Wasserman Schultz has done a great job for the Democrat Party.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
I really
Larry.
appreciate you spending some time.
Thanks, buddy.
We're going back on the Battleship New Jersey in just a couple of minutes. We talked to Cory Booker, and we got some good news for Senate President Steve Sweeney. That's coming up. But in the next segment, Dawn takes us inside the Wells Fargo Center to show the big party setup. That's when Jersey Matters continues from Philadelphia.